Washington, D.C., home to political power plays, endless controversies, and now what looks like the slow dismantling of the U.S. Department of Education. For decades, this department has been a cornerstone of the federal government, tasked with ensuring that American students get the education they deserve. Today, however, it's at the center of one of Donald Trump's boldest moves yet. Yes, folks, Trump is swinging his wrecking ball again, and this time he's targeting the very institution that's supposed to shape the future of America's kids. In true Trump style, he's decided it's time to pull the plug on the Department of Education, not downsize it, not reorganize it, straight up dismantle it. Now, let's rewind for a second. Why does Trump want to nuke the Department of Education? According to him, it's simple. This thing has been around since 1979, spent over $3 trillion. And what does America have to show for it? Mediocre test scores and a whole lot of red tape. Reading scores haven't budged much since the early 90s, and while math saw some improvement, it's not exactly a story of triumph. For Trump, this is a no-brainer. He believes education should be handled by states, not by some distant federal agency in Washington. So, surrounded by the Republican governors of Texas, Indiana, Florida, and Ohio, he signed an executive order calling for the department's closure. Education Secretary Linda McMahon, yes, the same Linda McMahon from WWE fame, has been tasked with making it happen. Sounds simple, right? Wrong. Here's the deal. The Department of Education isn't just a big building in D.C. It's the backbone of programs that help the country's most vulnerable students. We're talking about kids with disabilities, children in low-income areas, and even students in rural America. Sure, federal funding only makes up about 6% to 13% of public school budgets, but for these groups, it's a lifeline. And that's where the drama starts. Critics are calling this move reckless, even dangerous. Senator Patty Murray didn't hold back, accusing Trump of launching a slash-and-burn campaign that could devastate families and students across the country. Teachers' unions, education advocates, and even some state officials are freaking out. Their biggest fear? That without federal oversight, the gap between rich and poor schools will grow even wider. And let's not forget about the human cost. When Trump took office, the Department of Education had over 4,000 employees. Today, it's been slashed to just over 2,000. Hundreds have resigned or retired, and last week, another 1,300 were handed pink slips. That's a massive reduction in a matter of weeks. For the remaining staff, morale is at rock bottom. McMahon tried to rally the troops by calling this an opportunity to perform one final unforgettable public service. Yeah, that didn't exactly go over well. But wait, there's more. Shutting down a federal department isn't like canceling your Netflix subscription. It's a bureaucratic nightmare. Trump's executive order is just the first step. To officially dissolve the Department of Education, Congress needs to act. And that's where things get complicated. Democrats, who control the Senate, are almost guaranteed to block it. Trump would need 60 votes to overcome a filibuster, and let's face it, that's about as likely as a snowstorm in July. So why even try? For Trump, it's all about messaging. His base loves this stuff. To them, this isn't just about education. It's about fighting back against what they see as an overreaching federal government. It's about giving power back to the states and letting parents have more control over their kids' education. But here's the big question. Can states really handle this? Without federal oversight, will they step up and innovate? Or will we end up with a fragmented system where your zip code determines the quality of your education? Critics argue that this move could make an already unequal system even worse. Think about it. Wealthy states with big budgets will thrive, while poorer states might struggle to keep up. And then there's public opinion. Turns out most Americans aren't on board with this plan. A recent poll found that 63% of people oppose shutting down the Department of Education. But for the 37% who support it, this is a victory for state rights and local control. So, what happens next? For now, the states will start taking on more responsibility. Some see this as an opportunity to innovate, to create education systems tailored to their unique needs. Others fear it's a recipe for disaster. And while all of this plays out, millions of students and families are left in limbo, wondering what the future holds. At the end of the day, this isn't just a story about politics or bureaucracy. It's a story about America's children, their dreams, their futures, and the kind of country they'll grow up in. Is this move a bold step toward empowering states and parents? Or is it a dangerous gamble that could leave the most vulnerable students behind? One thing's for sure, the fight over the Department of Education is far from over, and like most things in Washington these days, it's bound to get a lot messier before it gets any clearer.